Here it is. So times of crisis can actually make us feel that things have come to a standstill. And what happened during the earlier part of 2020, when the entire world, almost the entire world, began to get into a lockdown phase where work stopped, or rather work continued from home, were no more functional. We were into a totally new world. May I request everyone to please mute themselves? Thank you. Right. So we are on staying productive during the crisis. And the key to staying productive during a crisis is please do not try to be productive. Please do not try to be productive. Just be productive. And how can we do that? We are going to have a look at it now. So a crisis can actually make you feel that everything is out of control. You are depending on the world economies and the decisions that are made by the politicians across the globe and the governments who are working in the best interest of their citizens. However, the good news is that things are still in your control. There is something that you can really easily control, which is your mindset, your ability to focus on what you want to focus on your goals and keep moving forward. Because my friends, let me share with you, in the prehistoric times, whenever a human being faced danger, there were two options in front of them, either to fight or to flee. However, as humans have evolved, today we are in a position to have three options. So we can either fight, we can flee, or we can stay and face the situation. So here we are addressing all of us who have the courage to stay here and to face the situation, face the crisis without having to fight or flee. I'll take you through some implementable hacks that we can easily inculcate in our daily lives. Whatever profession we are into doesn't really matter. Regardless of your profession, you can inculcate these hacks into your lives and you can have a productive time out there, wherever you're working from. So the first thing we are going to talk about is keeping a positive eye. So during the past 1 year, as the world went through this whole pandemic scene, there were two words that gained a lot of popularity. And those two words were optimism and hope. Optimism and hope were the center of any conversation that we had with our friends, with our family members, with our colleagues. But do we ever realize the difference between the words optimism and hope? So optimism is a feeling that things will get better with time. However, hope is a subtly different, but a much more powerful version of optimism. Because hope means that we are together going to make things better. Optimism is a passive virtue, whereas hope is an active virtue. So if you're optimistic about a situation, you feel that it will get better with time, automatically maybe. But when you are hopeful, you have taken control in your hands. And you know that you are taking action to come out of this situation or make things better for you and those people surrounding you. So that's the subtle yet powerful difference between optimism and hope. And I hereby invite all of you attending this session to be hopeful rather than being optimistic. Being optimistic is only the first step, but moving to the next step is being hopeful. So how do we do that? Some of the actions that we can take, or some of us have already taken those actions. You know, when the news was all negative throughout the globe, we shut down our news, didn't we? I mean, it was okay to disconnect. You don't really have to have all that negative inflow into your inbox always. It's good to be informed. But even the data which is available needs to come filtered into our mind. And give yourself the permission to be human. So it's okay to make mistakes. during a crisis when we are feeling that things are not in our control and we are depending on others, and where is the economy going, and where is my job going, and what is happening at my home, with all those things capturing our mind, we were having a proximity to make mistakes, and that was okay. Not only us, even our colleagues. So that's giving ourselves a permission to be human. Now, we've already been 1 year into this crisis. However, we still have this thing of being productive. We got accustomed to it. We were able to manage our boss and our pet at the same time in the same Zoom meeting. So that was great. However, productivity was still an issue. So hereby we are having this session, because being 1 year into a crisis and managing things is not equal to being productive. And the whole idea of being here today is bringing the best out of yourself, bring the best version out of yourself, regardless of the circumstances that are outside. Because as I mentioned in the beginning, there is something within your control, and that something is your hard work, your ability to pursue your goals, no matter what is happening outside. Finding every day a silver lining in your life. If 3 years back in time, if you would tell me, okay, Supriya, when you get up in the morning, think of 3 things that you're grateful for in your life, I would just shoo you off saying, oh, I don't have time for all this, or I rather don't believe in all this. But how life has taken a turn for all of us during the last 1.5 years, most of us have learned to appreciate things in our life. We have learned to be grateful for things in our life. And that's what I do now. When I get up in the morning, I think of 3 things that I'm grateful for or that I appreciate. Sometimes I find really new things. However, on the other days, it's just the normal things, that my ability of being alive, getting up this morning with my hands, my eyes, my body in place, everything in place, I'm grateful for it. And that's the same thing that I do at night before going to bed. What are the things that went well during the day? What is it that I appreciate about the day? You could write 2 things or 3 things, or you could just think about those 2 or 3 things, and you will see the difference in how your days go by and how you make a difference in not only your life, but the life of others around you. Because all of you attending this lecture or the seminar or the session here today are leaders in one way or the other. So if you have this misconception that being a leader is only being a managing director of a company, or being a manager, or being a world-renowned politician or a person of authority, that is not the definition of leadership. As long as you are making a difference in the life of people around you, you are influencing their lives, you are a leader. So whether you are a student or you're a housewife or you're a teacher or you're a manager, whosoever you are a leader in yourself. And the way you lead your life affects people around you. And that's the whole reason of being hopeful rather than just being optimistic. Give yourself the permission to slow down. I mean, all of us know that we have 24 hours in a day, and there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. That's okay. What's new in that? The world has more than 24 time zones. But what matters is your frame of reference. You might be joining us from New York, or you might be joining us from Lagos or London, anywhere in the world, and you are in a different time zone. The time at which the sun rises or the sun sets in your city is not the same as the time at which the sun rises or sun sets in my city. So we are in a different frame of reference, which means time is not the same for us. And what I'm coming to is the fact that give yourself the permission to slow down, spend time with your family, spend time with your loved ones, or just relax. It's okay. You do not have to make the best out of your time every time. If you have 3 extra hours doing other things, for example, when this COVID started and we were at home, I had 3 extra hours because I wasn't commuting to the office and I was working from home. So just like the world was doing, I went to Google and I looked for some online classes on leadership, and then I was learning the Korean language, and then I was painting, and I was doing 100 different things, assuming that this would make me productive, assuming that I am utilizing these 3 extra hours in my life in a better way. However, that was not the case. So if you are like me, who is thinking that doing more in a given time will make you productive, my friend, please revisit your definition of being productive. So having more time at hand does not mean that you have to do more number of things. It only means that whatever you are doing, do it in the best possible manner. Do it to the best of your ability. Because we are all at different phases in our lives. Our life stories are different. We come from different backgrounds. Our perception of time is going to be different. So if you think that spending time with your parents is a wastage of time, I might not be thinking so. Or if you think that going cycling for 30 minutes in the evening is a wastage of time, I might not be thinking so, because we are at different phases in our lives. That's what I'm saying. Just slow down and do what makes you relaxed. Do what calms your mind. Productivity is not equal to being busy in any way. Let the world do what they're doing. Let your friends do what they are doing. Please do not get so much influenced that you start taking busyness as being productive. So keep a positive eye, be hopeful. Now, if you tell me that you have met a person in your life who has never procrastinated or has never postponed to a task to a different time, I will tell you you are lying, simply because that is not possible. We are all humans, and to err is to be human, actually. We are all into a habit of procrastinating. We tell ourselves, okay, I have this particular task, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm not in a mood to do it today. Or I have this project coming up. Oh, it would be better if I start this weekend because I'll be more productive then, because I will have taken care of the other things by then. And we have different excuses of procrastinating and postponing things to a different time. However, there is always a place where you need to find your sweet spot between procrastinating and actually doing the task or taking the task in your hand. So discussion is good. You're sitting with your friends over a coffee and you're discussing about a business idea that has come to your mind during the pandemic. You are telling them, oh, Mr. A, I think it would be a good idea to start up a small business where we can deliver groceries to the people and they can order online. And this business is going to thrive during the pandemic. Yes, it's a brilliant idea. You are discussing it with your friends, which is fantastic. Now, if your friends also agree that it's a great idea, you would probably go back home and you would start planning, you would start making a business plan, and you would think of where to get investments from and where to align your resources, which is again, great. However, if you are not taking action in the third phase, if you're only discussing and if you're only planning without taking action, your first two steps are of no use. So it's good to sit and think and think and think and think. However, you need to take action, because without taking action, you are not starting anywhere. Start small. Even if you feel that you do not have all the resources because you are in a so-called pandemic, start with what you have. It's okay. You can always build up later on. Figure out your goals. Nobody else will do it for you. You will keep on discussing, you'll keep on chatting, you will keep on attending webinars and lectures and workshops. However, it is only and only in your hands that you take the time to plan out the actions you need to take, or plan out your learnings that you have taken from a particular workshop that you've attended. Because otherwise, you listen to someone, you get motivated for a while, and then after 15 minutes, after you've had your sandwich, it's all gone. Where was that motivation ever? So figure out your goals. Be very sure of what you need to do, and don't get distracted. I'll give you two instances. Think of a ship. Think of a ship which is moving in a sea, and the ship loses direction. The compass stops working and the ship loses direction. But in case one, the sea is calm. However, there is another ship in case two, which loses direction because the compass stopped working. But in that particular ship, the case is that it's a stormy sea. So it's the same ship which has lost a direction. One is in a calm sea and the other is in a stormy sea. Which one do you think has a higher probability of surviving or getting back its direction, or at least reaching the shore? It is the ship which has lost direction in a calm sea. The point I'm coming to is, we are in a stormy environment right now. with the global recession. So if you are getting diverted off your path, if you are getting diverted off your goals, there is a huge probability that you are not going to reach the shore, or you will not find your direction again because it's all stormy outside. Let's accept that. But if you are very sure of where you're going, if you are committed to your goals, it's going to be easy for you to find the direction, whatever the circumstances are outside. And it will not only help you to steer clear of analysis paralysis, but it will also help you to reach your destination in time. So the whole point of putting a full stop to procrastination here is stop thinking. It's good to think, but then thinking has to be followed by taking action. And if at all there are any thoughts in your mind that are not worthy of taking action for, please throw away those thoughts. They are not relevant. They are not supposed to be there in your mind. Only nurture the thoughts that are worthy of taking action. So let's do that. Let's put a full stop procrastinating and let's take action, because we are human beings who are in an area where we are facing the crisis. We are not fighting, we are not fleeing, we are facing the crisis. And let me share with you something that is going to help you to do that. Asking the right questions. So staying calm during a crisis, having your mental stability is really paramount. So you need to ask yourselves these right questions that will maneuver you in the right direction. So ask, what happened or what is happening? How did it happen? And the answers to these questions will come from various sources based on the data that is existing in the environment. But make sure when you are having that data incoming into your mind, please process only the data which is relevant. Because if you get into the hassle of processing irrelevant data as well, because there's lots and lots of data around, we are going to get lost. So please let the information that matters only enter your mind. So how did it happen? When did it happen? Where in space did a particular thing happen? Who were the people who were involved? Who were the stakeholders? And the last two questions are of key importance to you. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this particular situation? What is it that I go home with? It could either be a blessing or it could be a learning. So it is you who has to decide what is the lesson or what is the blessing that you have taken from this situation. And for now, we are talking about the crisis we are in. And the last question you are going to ask is, what can I do about it? So we started by saying everything is in control. You are in control. And how does that happen? When you know that what is your ability to take action in a given situation. How well are you adapted to take action in a given situation? And the answers to these questions will only come from asking the right questions. So analyze the situation you are in. It could be a personal situation, it could be an official situation, it could be a professional situation, because this crisis has not only affected us in terms of our jobs, but it has hugely affected our personal lives also. And we have seen some things come up which we never saw before in our lives. So these questions will actually help you align and focus in the right direction. Because once you have answered these questions, there'll be a lot of solutions to the problems that you encounter that you'll find. And eventually, as a result, what will happen is you will expand your thinking. There was a study conducted by the Harvard University in 2013 where they found that 80% of the companies, they spend their resources and they take action to do things in the way they have always been doing. So 80% of the companies spend a lot of resources and they take dedicated action to do things in a way that they have already been doing, which does not actually help them in crisis. What helps them in crisis is getting out of your comfort zone. And isn't the story of the company similar to our own stories? We feel, okay, I need to do this in the same way that I have been doing for past 20 years. Why should I change myself because of so situation? But you need to adapt to the situation. You need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to find new solutions to the same problems, maybe. Because the time is changing, the environment is changing. You are in a different zone right now. Consider scenario planning for this. As a strategy consultant, we always, in business situations, we always plan out 3 scenarios: the best case scenario, the normal scenario, and the worst case scenario. And it is a good idea to apply that to your personal life as well. Whenever you are in a situation or you find that there's a dearth of resources that you really need to plan something, consider 3 scenarios. The best case scenario, which is when everything goes out perfectly as planned, or the normal scenario, which has pluses and minuses, but it's neutral in a way, and the worst case scenario, where things go absolutely south. Things go in a way that you won't even expect. So once you are ready with these 3 scenarios, you will know how to act in a given situation. And I'll give you a case from, again, the business world. For those of you who witnessed the 1993 World Trade Center bombing in Manhattan in 1993, actually, you would remember that 150 businesses out of the 350 businesses actually went out. We never saw them again because those businesses were not ready for such a crisis, for such an unprecedented situation. And then came the 9/11 attack. Now, during the 9/11 attack, companies performed better because they had some crisis planning, they had some business continuity plans in place, which helped them to regain their normal operations in an acceptable amount of time. Followed by the third situation in 2012, when Sandy, the storms called Sandy, actually flooded the Manhattan. And that was the time where companies actually survived. They did not have to even stop their operations. Why? Because based on the history of the crisis that they had gone through, they had already planned the best case scenario, the normal scenario, and the worst case scenario, and they were ready for a crisis. So having plans in place and being able to take action based on those plans is your key to success. And how will that come? Only when you get out of your comfort zone. So whether it's your office or at home or even within yourself, get into this habit of getting out of the comfort zone. It has life-changing potential. And while you're doing all that, while you're asking yourself the right questions, while you're expanding your thinking, you need to do something else as well. You need to accept, yes, you need to accept what you cannot change. So discern what you can and what you cannot change. If the situation that you're facing is a problem, you will be able to come up with a solution for that when you brainstorm. There are going to be different possibilities and there are going to be different solutions that you will see based on the brainstorming if the situation that you're facing is a problem, and then you can make decisions accordingly. However, if you are facing a situation that is a fact or that is an event that has already taken place, sorry to say this, but there is nothing you can do about it other than accepting it and learning from it. So most of us, there's a term in business, we say sunk costs. I mean, the costs that have already gone down the drain, and then we think over the spilt milk, or we cry over the spilt milk, and we think, oh my goodness, my $1 million went down the drain and I don't know how to, get them back and things like that. We spend a lot of energy and resources on thinking about the sunk costs or thinking about events that have already taken place. But we do not realize that we need to accept those events, because only when we accept, then we will be able to analyze, and then we will be able to move forward based on the learnings we've had from those situations. So give appropriate treatment to a situation. It is either a problem. If it's a problem, then you will be able to find a solution when you brainstorm. Or
yes, the audio is not clear.
Do you hear me better now?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Thank you. So I was talking about giving appropriate treatment to problems, facts, and beliefs, because if the situation that you are facing is a problem, I'm telling you again, you will be able to find a solution when you brainstorm. But if it is a fact, if it is an event that has already taken place, all you can do is to accept and learn from it. But make sure you differentiate between problems, facts, and beliefs. Let us not get into a situation where we put ourselves into a false belief. For example, I might tell myself, oh, I have never run a 100-meter race. And now if you ask me to run a 100-meter race, I would say, I can't do that because I have never run a 100-meter race. Now, I have never run a 100-meter race doesn't mean that I do not have the ability to run 100 meters, which is a false belief that I have about myself. So don't accept false beliefs. We need to accept only facts. But if it's a false belief, we need to tell ourselves what is right and move on from there. And this will help us to cultivate the ability to respond effectively in situations which are not so ideal. So to me, out of all the hacks that we are talking about today for staying productive, personally, if you ask me, which is the most important one, I would say accepting what you cannot change. This is the starting line for me personally. Depending on where you are in your life story, you might have a different one. Eliminate the distractions. It's so easy to get distracted in today's world. You know, when this pandemic started and I was working from home, you would find me working from everywhere, from my bedroom, from the kitchen, from the living room, and sometimes from the dining table also, having food and working at the same time. So I was working from the dining table as well, except a friend of mine who actually I found working from the bathroom also. So there are different kinds of people and different places there we might be working from. So the lesson there is, if we are talking of bringing the best out of ourselves, if you're talking of making the best possible use of our time or doing the task at hand in the best possible manner, it is important to establish a workspace for yourself that you can go to work at home. Now, that does not mean that you have to have another room at home or you need to change your house to get a different workspace for yourself. No, it's very simple. You know, in a corner of your room, you can have a small desk, a work desk for yourself where you can have your things, your work tools. Or even if you do not have access to a work desk, just get a small tea table and pile some books on top of that and have your computer or your system on that. It's as easy as that. It doesn't require a lot of resources, but whatever you can, with whatever you have, establish a small workspace so you can feel the rhythm and the tone of that working. And at the same time, it will also help you to keep the code of conduct at home in place, because you have different family members who have different requirements. You might be having a child who is schooling, who is attending online classes, or you might be having a partner who is also working from home. So if we are able to have a code of conduct which respects everyone's time and everyone's requirements, things are a lot better for all of us. And what I personally do when I'm working is I keep my phone in the silent mode. So I'm not receiving, or I am receiving notifications in my phone, but at least they're not getting to my ears. So I don't get to see what are the notifications I'm receiving. It helps me to concentrate on the task that I'm doing right now. Because in today's world, it's very easy to be, swayed away by temptations. Whenever we are working, it's the best idea to focus at hand on what we are doing, because there is a misconception that we have, in today's millennial world, people are taken by terms like multitasking. So there is nothing like multitasking. Human brain is not made for multitasking. And I'm telling you this from a research conducted by a neuroscience institute, which has also been a topic of research project that I was working on. There is nothing like multitasking, because human brains are not designed for multitasking. When we say that we can or we have the ability to multitask, the only thing we are doing is we are switching between the tasks. We are never multitasking. We are switching between the tasks. So I write an email and then I check my phone. It's not multitasking. It is switching between the tasks. So let's avoid those temptations and be self-disciplined. It will help us to bring the best in ourselves at a given point in time. And once we have our goals in place, because at the beginning we said, we are in a stormy sea all around, let us not get diverted by the storm. We need to have our goals and priorities in place. So when you start your day in the morning, or sometimes I also do it the night before, if I know the next day looks busy, either the night before or the morning next day, make sure that you are putting all your goals in place and prioritizing the tasks for the day. Because some of us might be wearing different hats from home or work or school. We could be wearing different hats, and it becomes difficult at times to be switching between those roles. So if you have prioritized the tasks for yourself, then it will be easier for you to know when to draw a line between what you're doing and what you actually shouldn't be doing at that given moment. And how can you actually do that? In the left side of the screen, you see a circle, and in the right quadrant at the top, which is the second quadrant, you will be able to see a high priority, high impact zone. So these high priority, high impact zone has the tasks which should take up 70% of my time. That's how I do it. So I'm sharing with you how I prioritize my time based on the tasks I have for the day. So if the task I have is high priority and it has high impact, I give 70% of my working time to this particular task. However, if the task is low priority and high impact, which is the third quadrant or on the bottom right, if it is low priority and high impact for me, I spend 20% of my time on this task or this list of tasks. If it's the first quadrant, which is high priority and low impact, I'm going to be giving 10% of my time to these tasks, which are high priority, but they have low impact because these are general day-to-day tasks, which are high in priority. You need to get them done right now. But the beauty of these tasks is you can also delegate them. It's not necessary that you yourself have to take up these tasks. So I give least of my time, which is 10% of my time, to the tasks which are in the first quadrant or in the top left corner of the circle. They are high priority, but they are low impact. And the tasks which are at the bottom left, which are low priority and they're low impact, that's what I actually procrastinate. Yes, I also have this bad habit of procrastination, but I procrastinate the tasks which I find are low priority and low impact. So that's how I prioritize my time, and I call it the 70-20-10 rule. And I would be willing to hear from you if you have a different strategy for prioritizing your time. It'll be helpful for all of us. So that's mine, 70, 20, and 10. 70% of the time goes to tasks which are high priority, high impact. 20% goes to the tasks which are low priority, but they are high impact. And 10% goes to the tasks which are high priority, but they are low in their impact. So that's the idea of prioritizing the tasks. And while you are doing all this, do not forget to focus on self-care, because when the entire world stops supporting you, the only thing or the only person who is going to support you is yourself, this body that you live in. So this is something you need to take good care of. Eat portioned healthy meals, especially in times of pandemic when we were working from home. Most of us had this issue of gaining weight because we were eating what we wanted and we were sitting in one place and working and we were out of routine, things like that. So to avoid all that and to stay healthy during a time when we are actually working from home, it is better to eat portioned and healthy meals and keeping ourselves hydrated with lots and lots of water. Now, when it comes to having an exercise routine, depending on who you are and what's your story, it could be a 15-minute routine that might work for you, or it could be a 3-hour exercise routine that will work for you. So don't get taken away by your friend who's working out at the gym for 2 hours. It might not work for you. Do whatever works for you. But yes, please exercise. Take out at least 15 minutes for your body. Because remember, again, whenever the world stops supporting you, it is your body that will keep you going. And it is a healthy body in which a healthy mind resides. Take time to gel with nature. Nature is a healer in itself. Going for walks, observing the plants or the beauty of the nature mindfully without judging, just observing, not even judging, not telling yourself, oh, how beautiful this flower is, maybe I need to pluck this flower. No, not having that temptation, but just to observe it mindfully, gel with nature, spend time with nature. Staycations are so popular these days, workations, people are going to hill stations and beautiful beaches to work. I don't know how successful is that. I haven't really done that, but yes, what I do is I keep my working time separate and my nature time separate. So spending time with nature actually rejuvenates me and makes me ready for the next set of tasks that I need to take. And it's important for you to take time to relax and unwind. Like I said, if you have extra 2 hours at hand, please do not have the temptation to utilize these 2 hours because it might make you underproductive. I'm a pistol shooter, and since I have this idea of always being perfect and giving my best to a situation, it so happened that I practiced shooting for 3 hours on a particular day because I thought it will improve my performance, I'll be able to hit more targets. But you won't believe what happened on that particular day. After practicing for 3 hours, when I actually took the shots, my pistol was shaking at the end of 3 hours, and not even a single shot out of the 10 shots that I took, not even a single shot hit the target. So don't get carried away by the temptation to do more because it might make you underproductive. Just do what you're doing in the best possible manner that you can and get enough sleep. Just because you're not going to office, you don't have to report to office the next day, or you don't have to get up early the next day. Let's not keep watching our favorite shows on Netflix till 3 a.m. Let's have fixed times for going to bed and getting up in the morning. Because sleep, it actually makes your circadian rhythm the best for working out throughout the day. So if you're not having enough sleep during the day, we might not be as productive as we are supposed to be. So for focus on self-care while you're taking care of your family, you are taking care of your loved ones, you're at home, you're playing different roles. Let's also make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. Because if we are taking care of ourselves and we are in good shape, when I say good shape, I mean in good shape mentally, we will be able to take care of all the people around us. And that's how a leader works, influencing people around you. So once you are good, you're able to cast a positive influence on the people around you. And that's what I had to share on staying productive. And I would again repeat the catch: do not try to be productive, just be productive. Thank you.
So we are very happy and we thank you for such a wonderful, thanks a lot for giving us the opportunity to listen to you. Now, having the questions we have for her, you can raise up your hand electronically or by show of hand, but electronically will be preferred. If you have any question for her, okay. Techno C8 is raising up hand electronically. You can unmute yourself if you are raising up hand. Techno C8. Okay, maybe she was not raising up hand. Any other person raising up hand? Okay. No question. Okay, but from the information from the chart, as I can see, one person asks that is the 70, 20, 10 you prescribe, replacing the parental principle, the 80-20 rule. So you can throw light on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have derived the 70-20-10 from the Pareto's principle itself. So, Pareto's principle, for those of us who want some more attention on Pareto's principle, it is the 80-20 rule. And it says it actually came in from Italy. So, Italy was the place which I was based. And it came in from Italy saying that 80% of the people, 80% of the wealth, sorry, was consolidated in the hands of 20% of the merchants. That was the case in Italy, and that's how the history of Pareto's principle came in. And coming to business and coming to life, Pareto principle actually means that 20%, only 20% of the tasks take up 80% of that time, and those are the tasks which are really, really important, or those are the activities which are revenue generating activities. So based on that, I have modified the Pareto's principle to suit my way of life and to suit my requirements. And 70% of the time I allocate to tasks which are high impact and high priority for me. So depending on, again, the kind of profession you are into, the kind of life you lead, whatever time you have at hand, whatever schedule you have, depending on that, you could also have a modification of the Pareto's principle that works for you. Like 70-20-10 works for me, there might be a different number or a different ratio that works for you. So feel free to, just have different permutations and combinations based on the priority of tasks that you have in your life right now. And it's not necessary that what you decide right now is going to work for you 20 years down the line or even 2 years down the line. Priorities change, our lives change. So feel free to just juggle with that and have the best permutation or the best combination that works for you.
Okay, thanks a lot for throwing light. Benga, you are raising up your hand. Benga, Dr. Benga, please, you have the floor. Unmute yourself. We are not hearing you. Benga, we are hearing you. Okay. While you try to unmute yourself, Joshua Odemi, who is also a member of the Center for Productivity, please, can you make a comment or ask question? Dr. Joshua Odemi, can you unmute yourself? We are not hearing you. Okay, you are having challenge unmuting yourself. Benga, we are not hearing you, and
Hello.
trying.
Hello, sir.
Okay.
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 Yes, I was saying the issue of multitasking and task switching, it still has the same effects in the sense that there can be no efficiency. Not much of efficiency can be achieved because it's not as simple as just switching from email to WhatsApp and so on. Because we're talking about situations wherein personnel are involved and there are things to be achieved that may require total commitment. Is multitasking still acceptable, or is it still as good as is being presented?
Dr. Ray, you can please comment.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Joshua, for that comment, question. So I'm totally in alignment with the fact that multitasking and task switching are the same things. The whole idea was to remind us of the fact that we tell ourselves, we have this misconception that we are multitasking and we are paying attention to both the tasks, but actually it's not so. We are focused on only one thing at a time. So either I'm writing my email, but the moment I switch from my email to my WhatsApp on my phone, I have already lost track of that email now. And now when I come back to that email, I have to spend few minutes or probably few seconds in some cases before I again start writing. So for me personally, it is not acceptable because it does not make me efficient in what I'm doing. I perform better if I'm concentrating my energy and my attention on one task at a time. It also saves my time actually. I'm able to do more in a given amount of time.
Thank you very much. That's exactly.
Good. Any other person have?
Already doing something.
Okay. No other person. So we now like to.
Sorry, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
Demba, please go ahead.
Yes, someone was asking, Dr. Didi Moro was asking that how do we manage multiple tasks that are all important? From the chat room, the chat.
How do we manage multiple tasks that are important?
Thank you, Chioma, for bringing our attention to Dr. Didi Moro's question. And the question is, how best do we manage multiple tasks that are all important? So yes, the first step here is prioritize. Even when we know that we have 5 tasks which are important and which we think are all important for us on that particular day or for that particular moment, we can still prioritize. Prioritize in the sense, meaning which one needs to be done first and which one can wait till evening or which one can wait till tomorrow. Because I'm sure if you have 5 really important tasks at hand, there are different timelines which are associated with them. There are some that you need to complete by this evening. Probably there's a report that you need to submit by the evening, but there might be a personal task that can wait till tomorrow. So that is the idea of prioritizing based on the timeline. And the second step here is allocating chunks of time to these tasks. For example, for those of us who are so-called perfectionists or perfection-oriented, we are into this habit of starting a task, and suppose the task was to be taking 2 hours of our time, we end up spending 3 hours of our time on that particular task, thinking that we are doing a lot of justice to it and we want to do it to the best of our ability. However, that might not be the case. So allocate chunks of time and as far as possible, stick to it. If you are telling yourself that I'm going to spend 2 hours on this project, let's stick to it and let's not get to 2.5 hours or 3 hours. Now, 2 hours could become 2 hours and 10 minutes, 2 hours, 15 minutes. That is possible. But then 2 hours getting to 3 hours or 2.5 hours just throws us out of schedule. So it's always a good idea to allocate time to a particular task. And there is another cue here. It happens with all of us sometimes that we start with a particular task. For example, I don't know if any of you are authors here or you are writing. So for me, at least, when I am supposed to write a piece for a journal or for a magazine or something, and I start writing, if I don't get an idea or if I don't get the motivation to write in the first 7 minutes, I leave the task to a different time. I do not spend further time on that. So the whole idea here is, if you are not getting the idea to start that particular task within 7 to 10 minutes of your sitting, it means that it is not the right time or you're not really ready to do it at that moment. So you can have it for a different piece of time or a different chunk of time when you are in a better capacity to do justice to that particular task. So that's my take on this.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Colonel App, who is also a fellow of the body, please can you unmute and make your comment or ask your question? After
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Hello. Thank you, sir. Actually, I came in a bit late into the presentation, but I have to remark that what I met was quite interesting and enlightening. Thank you, madam, for the presentation. From my own little experience, I want to make a little contribution and then ask a question. I discovered that for me particularly, I discovered that when I'm remote working, I believe that it is better for me to simulate the aspect that as if I'm still doing the work in the office physically. For instance, I wake up at the normal time that I used to wake up, dress up, as if I'll be going to the office, but sit down behind my PC and do the work. And when I normally have break period, I observe it accordingly, like that. So in this aspect, and also the issue of the health, being, how to remain healthy that the madam raised, I think what I try to do again is, if I'm actually sick, rather than pretending that I'm at home, I will go and observe the normal sick leave, as if I come from work office and maybe I have a day off. I will still observe that accordingly. So I want to ask, from your perspective, Ma, what are the other things one can do that will make the remote working very interesting and as smooth as if you are doing the normal office work, so as to keep your productivity level at the optimal level? Thank you.
Thank you for that contribution, and I really appreciate that contribution because as a part of remote working or working from home, we've had this notion of working in the PJs. You know, some of us, we just get up in the morning and we do not follow the routine that we usually do when we are going to office, and we just sit in front of the computer without even our breakfast, and we are just ready to work or go to a meeting, which should not be the case. The ideal way of doing it is just like you mentioned, you know, having or observing a regular routine like you were actually going to office. So getting ready or dressing up like you were going to office, and then having those breaks and the working times in accommodation with the way your work schedule looks like, simulating, as you mentioned. So that's a brilliant thing that you're doing, and I must comment that you have a real strong mind to observe this kind of discipline, this kind of self-discipline that keeps you productive even during times of crisis. And we could always follow such a thing, and at the same time, there's a good idea of having our colleagues, our work colleagues, accountable. You know, having our work colleagues accountable for our actions and for their actions, you know, having this feeling that we are still working in the office and we are all working together in spite of the fact that we are remote working. You know, we should not feel that, oh, you are sitting 50 miles away from me and I am sitting here. We should still feel that we are working together. So it's a good idea to be working together with our colleagues, so we feel, or we can simulate that office environment, and we can have the best possible decisions made like we would actually do if we were in office or sitting in our office conference room or meeting room. Thank you for this.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And just to add to that, like we also do in Center for Productivity, though we work remotely also, but at times we organize for staff meetings on Zoom where we see each other and discuss and reach at a conclusion. And there should be a way of also all staff putting in report of their output, what they have achieved during the past week, so that we also know that he's accountable. Dr. Demi,
can you hear me now, Dr. Chris?
Very well and clear.
Excellent, excellent. I guess the host actually muted me.
Yes.
Okay. That was a very brilliant presentation by Dr. Supriya Sharma. It was quite insightful. But there was a particular area that I seem to deviate from our principle. And I would want to back it up with a classical example. The area of multitasking. The area of multitasking. Let's take, for instance, you realize that these days, marginal field operators, their preference is to engage somebody with wide experience. What do I mean by that? Somebody who has experience in drilling operation, for instance, well intervention, well completion, well production, well operations, rather than somebody who spends practically all his time doing drilling operations alone or doing production operations alone. Somebody with that wide spectrum of experience, he has that potential of doing what we call multitask. He can multitask appropriately well. But she seems to be mixing it with somebody who has, let's take for instance, drilling operation. And within drilling operation is quite broad. And within that profession, you can also switch. You can switch within a lot of tasks ahead of you. So, but when you use the word multitasking, it is broader, it is not limited. I want you to react to what I just said. Doctor.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, not your own doctor. I'm referring to Dr. Sharma.
Yes, I know.
She needs to react to that.
Thank you, Mr. Benga, for bringing this different angle to the word multitasking. And yes, there's a difference in perception. The way I am seeing or I'm looking at multitasking is doing two things at the same time. That's what I mean by multitasking here. And the classical example that you gave from the field operations, I would want to term it as multi-skilling, or having the ability to have multiple skills. Or I would, in fact, again, back it up with an example. In general companies, we have this term called job rotation. So a person who's working in a customer service domain for 6 months is now shifted to a sales domain for another 6 months, and then is shifted to the finance department for another 6 months. And that's how the person gets an idea of how the entire company works. So for 6 months, she's working with customer service, but when she's working with customer service, she's not working with the sales department at the same time. If she were doing so, I would call it multitasking. But for first 6 months, when she is dedicating her time only to customer service, she's getting the skills and the expertise required to work with the customer service team. She's getting that particular skill. And when she moves out of customer service and she moves to sales, she is doing only sales. And that's how, when this particular lady, when she moves out of this company and she applies to another job, now that particular recruiter will be able to appreciate her ability of having multiple skills or having the experience of working in different departments, which is different from multitasking in my perspective. Because for me, multitasking, as I define it, is doing more than two things or two things at the same time, which ideally isn't designed for the human brain to be in the best of its efficiency.
Oh, thanks so much, Dr. Sharma. I now appreciate from the perspective you are speaking from. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So multitasking does not stop us from not doing multitasking. Does not mean we should not have multi-skill. All of us have multi-skill. Victor Ekweme, you have raised up hand. Do you want to comment or ask question? Konya Jagede, you can bring down your hand since you have spoken before. Now let's listen to Victor Ekweme.
Okay, thank you very much. presentation was very, very good. I really loved it. But I just want to make a comment. My comment is from the part of the presentation where she spoke about doing her what do you call it? Her day, preparing her day the night before. For me, what I do is actually I prepare my week. So I prepare my whole week on Sunday, which spans from Monday to Saturday, right? And then I can alter it, as I please the night before or as the day, presents itself. But I tend to think, for me, this is my own, my own opinion and how I have been operating, is that basically planning for the week. I actually got this from Stevie Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where you plan for the week. And I see for me that's more effective for me. And then also when I do the daily stuff, after I've planned for each day, Monday, Tuesday, all the way to Saturday, I look back at the day and I actually start, when I say marking myself, like giving myself a score. Okay, like if I did this well, if I didn't do this well, similar to what you said, that what were the 3 things, at the end of the day, be grateful for the 3 things you learned, or grateful for the 3 things you achieved that day. I kind of look at the day and say, okay, this is what I didn't do. I did this one well. So that's my own take on it. I really appreciate what you've done. Thank you very much.
Comments? Thanks a lot for your comment. I think we are done with the question phase now.
Can I quickly add to what Mr. Victor just mentioned?
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Victor. We really appreciate you for sharing how you prioritize your time, or how you prioritize your week. In fact, I would like to add here that some of us are into jobs where we actually prioritize the month also, or we set a schedule for the entire month. We do a monthly planning, and then we do a fortnightly planning. Sometimes we do a weekly planning, and then we check that on a day-to-day basis to make sure, or to ascertain our progress based on how we are doing. So thank you for sharing that, and making it more broader, that planning could be done on a different basis depending on the job or the profession you are into. It could be monthly or 6 monthly, it could be weekly, but at the end of the day, I hope we are all checking how far we are progressing with the tasks that we have given ourselves for that particular duration of time. Because actually, ticking off the tasks gives us that motivation, it gives us that feel of achievement, and we are aligned to do more in that way. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Sharma. We appreciate your coming to give this wonderful lecture. So for people who are joining us for